Okay, once again I'm trying the overhead rack that I did, and I'm just sort of wobbling the camera so that it's in the correct perspective. Whether or not it will show that when I upload it remains to be seen. Okay, so the top band is on all the way around, and I'm happy about the placement of the design relative to the selvage edge, because it puts that yellow line just inboard of the top, which means I can use that as a reference line when I'm putting in the lining. So now I'm basting the box pleats, and I found one unintended consequence. Remember, this apron pleat was going to be exceptionally deep, so I halved it. I turned it into a box pleat, and I did that primarily so that this pleat would not be a single thickness of cloth. It's now 3 thicknesses of cloth, which is pretty much uniform for the rest of it. But by turning it into actually more properly, a bellows pleat, it has turned the last pleat here into a de facto box pleat because it turned under. And remember, I'd emphasized how kilts, they were originally made from, the older kilts made from box pleats and been sewn as box pleats and pressed as such, they, with a lot of wear, the first and last pleat just converted themselves back into, well, not back into, but converted themselves into knife pleats. So what I've done is I've deepened this box pleat to give it, to use up some of that extra cloth, and to perhaps to see if that will change its nature. So I'm going to keep in touch with the client, and just sort of keep a watching brief on it, as it were, get his feedback from this, because if it goes wonky, well, I'm just going to have to go in and change it, aren't I? I won't say fix it, because we're in new territory here, and that's a bit of a voyage of discovery. Yeah, so let's carry on. So as you can see, and this so often happens, not just with box pleats, but with knife pleats as well, the cloth tends to roll under, as you can see. So as I'm doing each of these, and I've said that I've shown this in at least one other video on how to press a kilt, that I'm using one hand to roll the cloth out to get that proper perspective, that proper width. And each pleat's getting 2 stitches. The first stitch, which is close to the edge of what will be a crease, goes all the way through the cloth. We go through and through, as they say, twice, back stitch. And then we bring it over, but that's just shallow. That's not going through all of the layers, because I don't think it has to. The first one going through and through is the one that makes a difference. And again, and again. Right, I gotta say, you go through an awful lot of basting thread when you're basting up a box pleat kilt, but that's okay. I can recycle at least some of it. I suppose if I was going to be really thrifty, I could hang on to it as it gets coarser, and through repeated steamings it gets it swells. And right now this is right off the spool, and it's lovely and smooth. There may or may not be some sizing in there, but after a few presses it gets a bit thick and coarse. So again, if I was going to be really thrifty, I could possibly roll it onto a spool and use it for hemping for bagpipes. Because, sorry to break it to you, but the yellow hemp sold in stores for bagpipe maintenance isn't actually hemp. It's what the Irish call sacking thread. It's possibly linen, possibly just cotton. Okay, there we go again. I'm gonna finish this pleat, or so I can finish this row of bastes in this vid. And then the next vid I'll show it completely basted. Once I get this done, I can press it. having pressed it, I can set it aside and let it dry. And get to work on that plaid. Motor noise you may or may not be able to hear. I think there's some construction going on the next street. City workers have the road up there, either laying pipe or replacing pipe, I don't know. And you can see now with this attention to detail why I'm absolutely unwavering in my opinion that you never take a kilt to a dry cleaner to be pressed, because they're simply not going to do this. And one time I tried it, I basted a new kilt like this, sent it in to be pressed, and again, if you're not dealing with a cleaner who's actually doing the work, there's really very little chance that your instructions are going to be followed. And frankly, maybe not even none. Because they threw it in the cleaner, and then tumbled around, and it broke all the bastes, or a lot of the bastes, enough to make them worthless. And then they pressed it, so wound up with the same rotten pressing job, the pie-shaped, the wedge-shaped pleats that are the principal hallmark of a kilt that's been sent to the dry cleaner for pressing. I had to do that all over again. Now I'm at the first pleat, but I'm not going to run it onto the outside apron. I'm going through and through here, and I'm capturing, I feel 1, 2, 3. No, there's 2. That's got to be the edge of my quilting pad that I feel, right? I'm not going to baste the outside apron down until later. Frankly, because I'm a bit bigger than this chap. He's a 36 waist. I'm a long way from being a 36 waist. I might, what I'm thinking about doing, I might press everything in the kilt except the aprons, so that when he comes for his final fitting, remember, we know where the inside apron strap has to go, so we don't have to worry about fitting that strap to him in the final fitting. I can attach that, I can do the lining, but if I leave these unpressed, I can put the kilt on them. I can use gravity as an aid to show exactly where the apron wants to fall, and then baste it and then press it there. And speaking cynically, the customer will be impressed with my attention to detail, but it's true. But also we escape the chance of it being wrong, because if you see a kilt where the apron is curled up like that, they didn't let out enough cloth and baste it. They haven't put in enough of an A-line, and that's what causes to turn up like that. And that's not a new situation. There's a painting I think I mentioned elsewhere by Robert Roy McKeon? Robert Ranald McKeon, the famous painter in the late 1850s. latter half of the 18th, 19th century, who painted a group portrait of the 79th Highlanders. And in one of them, the chap's apron is clearly doing that. So that tells us, A, they had access to hot irons for pressing, and B, haha, you got it wrong too. So I'm going to baste here along this red line, but I think I'm also going to baste at the very hem just to capture the whole thing, because we don't want, I mean, when I'm pressing this right side up, I can manipulate the cloth as I'm pressing it to make sure that it's not rolling under like that, or conversely, it's not going too far the other way so you see any of the blue. But having pressed it on one side, when I flip it over, there's a chance that could disarrange, and by pressing the other side, I could upset things. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to baste it here. I'm also going to take the time I should say, and baste it down there. And there will be. Yeah. Talk to you later. Close your eyes if you get motion sickness, because out goes the camera.